wasn't sure if you can hear me. I said it's not going to happen while I'm on stage because the Americas guys are still sleeping, yeah? So you never know what happens on stage. So good morning. Thank you very much, Jaco, for explaining us on what's happening in 5G. I think 5G is really one of the good enablers. I mean, that's the German good, an awesome enabler for what we could do in industrial space. And we have put together in HPE a team working really on what we can do in the industrial space and how do we really capture all this data and move it from a machine to a compute stack, to another compute stack, to deep learning and AI. And this is what I wanted to talk you through this morning. So where is it happening? Yeah, and that was kind of what I've been doing the last 3 years to distinguish between relevant or non-relevant use cases. And the story goes on with the new technologies. And it's happening kind of everywhere in the industrial space. And there are many, many use cases which we have thought through. And I was always coming from the IT side of the house, sure. I mean, that's what Hewlett Packard is known for. And we were always talking about how do we connect to the last meter, to the machines, to the tools, to the pumps, what have you. But that's probably the wrong perspective, because if you are an industrial company and you're producing anything, it's not the last meter, it's the first one, the really important one. So how do you connect from your tool with a sensor into a network, whether it's 5G, 4G, whether it's private, LTE, or public? It's really the first step you have to do, and that's the one which makes us as an IT company the hardest to think about. Yeah? So it's happening everywhere, and what is it about? It's really about data and getting more and more data, and you can listen to any of the analysts. Yeah? You can pick whomever you like. So there's going to be more and more data outside the data center, and I really can walk here from the left to the right, so I do a marathon, I guess. So it's about the data, and it's about capturing the data from a private, very individual cases and bringing it up to an enterprise layer and optimize it there. And you can see some new, not things, but new outcomes been generated with the technology we have today. And one of the major things which I personally believe is gonna really changing a lot the way we run operations and where we can generate new insights is video analytics. And if you can do a real-time analytics based on video, or you put in glasses with augmented reality, then you need to have, yes, you have to have a connectivity, as we heard before, but you need to have compute on site. Because whenever you put it somewhere in any kind of data center, and a cloud for me is also a data center, but you don't know where it is. Yeah? If you put the data from an industrial space into a data center, then you have always some kind of latency, and you never can be 100% assured that the connectivity is there. So you're better off running your core production when you run it inside your factory, at least at those very critical pieces. And this is where we have developed together, and this is the second part of my speech, together with partners, many solutions in that area. And I think and that will be the summary also at the end, I think it only works if we work together in an ecosystem. And that's why I'm also happy that we have AFNet today hosting us here, because no one can do it on its own. Yeah? So you have to have integrators, you have to have any kind of partners to make it work. But at the end, it's really new stuff and new optimized processes and new outcomes we can generate. And just some highlights on on the slides, as you can see here. So how does it work? And you might find this with the circles a bit that I try to do hypnosis this morning. It's not the case. It's really about to understand where the data is ingested, this first meter I was talking about, and then having the first analytics, maybe very close to this machine, to the tool, in a factory or at an oil rig or in a mining facility, what have you. And then it's about bringing in AI capabilities, which is for me nothing else than more and more analytics in many layers, and really analyze those data on a second layer to predict something. Yeah? Predictive maintenance is one of the very big topics, and it's been the last 3 years, but it's really gonna continue, because if you can predict something, then you really can automate it, and it's becoming much more efficient. And then it's about getting a layer up, if you want, about insights and outcomes. So that's the idea, how we position this. And how would you do it? And this is one example of an IoT platform from our Avnet friends. And it has to be a two-way communication. So if you go here on the bottom of the picture, you have all the different solutions, which could be in the IoT space, smart factory, asset monitoring, up to retail. And then you collect the data, you send it to any kind of a smart IoT platform, and there you perform the analytics, and then you would typically send something back, because otherwise it doesn't make much sense if you just send it up and you don't get a feedback down. So how would you perform anything smart with it? And I like very much the services they have put here in place about real-time analytics, as I mentioned before, remote monitoring, asset tracking. Those are the overall principles which we use in many cases, also in the industrial space. So what's the overall strategy with that? And that's a perfect match to our own strategy. It's edge-centric, so we really want to move into multi-cloud stacks towards the edge. It has to be connected, whether it's with LAN, whether it's with 5G. And it's insight-driven, because you don't do it just because of having fun of compute somewhere at the edge. It's because you want to learn something, you want to get something new out of it. And then it comes up to many use cases, as I mentioned before. And there's one which is I think my favorite, and that's the one on the left, on the right-hand side. It's a worker safety, because there are many industries. If you think chemical industry, if you think mining, if you think for sure oil and gas, where the worker safety is a threat to the worker mainly, but also to the companies. And if it's about one thing to really make better with all the technology, then it's to really save people's life. And there's a man-down solution where we also partner with a company called Guardhead in the States, where they have a helmet which has sensors included, and if the guy just falls down, that you could sense it. And if this is happening not in Bavaria, where I live, but if it's happening in Houston or in very harsh environments somewhere in the north of Finland, then you better find that person pretty soon, because otherwise the guy is probably not alive anymore or heavily injured. And there are many companies I was talking to who really see that as enhancing the way they want to work. And you can take a chemical company in Germany, you can go to Norway, to the oil and gas. What was the name of this one? I forgot. So that was a joke. There are not so many Norwegians, right? So there are many companies who really want to increase the way people really are taken care of. So that's just another view on how we would see that. Really capture data secure at the edge, bring it to an analytics operations center, manage the data flow, and that's something which comes more and more important, and you have seen that before in the speech, which was also massive IoT. I like that one. Because if you have massive data been generated from more and more sensors, then where do you want to put them? So you probably want to analyze a lot, as I said before, at the edge, in this case, an oil rig. And then you need to build a two-way flow of this data from that edge into a consolidated edge data center. That's at least what we have shown in Hanover last week for the industrial space, works also for oil and gas. So bring a compute stack into whatever it's needed, which is the size of an American refrigerator, make that ruggedized and bring a private cloud stack on there. And then manage the data flow further into the cloud, whether it's your private cloud or whether it's a public cloud, but make sure that you measure that you manage that data flow seamlessly into both directions. Now that sounds pretty easy maybe, but it's not, because we talk more and more data, and the question is how you do it. And if you want to have some answers on how we would perform 200 petabyte of data in certain data lakes, then we are happy to discuss with you, because that's what we do in some of the automotives currently. And if it's 200 petabyte of data going into those three layers of compute and analytics, then this is more than sometimes 50 or 100 times of the data a typical large enterprise would have in the current data center. So if you look into mid-sized automotive production companies or any larger mid-sized companies in Europe, they typically have between 2 and 5 petabyte of data today in their data center, and I'm talking 200 petabyte. So this is really how we build this data flow from edge into cloud. So wanted to give you the next 12 minutes a very detailed view on the industrial reference model. No, I won't, because those guys who are in production could explain that much better than me. But we have built that reference model for various use cases, and I don't want to overdo it, but again, with very many partners with whom we do it, because we can't do it just on our own. So if you talk on the ERP system or MES system, then we discuss with all the large players in the market. I thought it's probably good to give you, from that theoretical view, a little bit of the stuff. And sorry guys, this is pretty wide. I don't want to be, so now they have to wait. So it's about 4 things which we have been driving together with our partners, and it's about the outcomes at the end. Yeah, it's really reduction of manual inspections. That's what we have done together with a partner called PTC, with whom we also run one of our IoT centers in Aachen, at the German-Dutch border. The next one is together with SAP, where we have worked in the States to really increase the process when they have an issue with their poles, after a thunderstorm or something. They now really understand at center point where this is happening, because this is all connected and they understand their grid. Texmark Also in the States, chemical company, as I said before, this man-down thing, but also how can you bring connectivity into a plant? How would you optimize your sensors? First, how would you refit your pumps with sensors, and then understand what's happening out there in your plant, which is today, or was until a couple months back, a manual effort that a person had to go to the pumps of whatever kind of chemical processes and take a note, in fact, on a paper. How does it look like? Is the pressure okay? Is all the settings fine? And this person now can do it from internal air-conditioned housing, and really doesn't need to walk around because he now understands what's happening in the plant. And that was a big change, not only from a technology perspective, but also from the behavior of the people. And I think that's something we also have to consider very much, that this new opportunities in IT and that IT-OT convergence really need to have people following this and educate your people. So if you just do this in a ivory tower and you develop something new, it's not going to say that this is going to work, because you have to really take care that your people follow and that they understand the benefits from it. And this is what happened very nicely at Texmark. So you can talk anytime to the CIO or CEO to understand what we've been doing there. So with that said, I think it's really crucial to understand what are the outcomes, where do you need what kind of compute stacks in the factory, close to the machines, or in the core or cloud data center. And then for me, the idea was, how can I explain to you a little bit what could be the next step forward, because this is what I've been talking now about, very much point solutions, video analytics here, pumps there, and how would this really fit all together. And that's my almost last picture. It's really about bringing one production into one, if you want, from an IT perspective, data lake, and really perform analytics, including AI and deep learning, based on those. And what we have put here together in one slide can be a couple of days workshop, but the overall idea is explained pretty quickly. So if you start in the upper left hand with R&D, then many companies already have CAD, CAE, what have you, kind of development tools from many different providers. Yeah, again, PTC is one of those who do that very smart with their software suite. But so what typically happens if you have done something in research, then there's a break towards the design and the prototyping phase. So what if you could just close this bridge and shut down, if you want, the silos while transferring R&D data into design and prototyping data. And then if you think this through, if all this data is already available in different data lakes or in different databases, then why wouldn't you want to take this immediately into production and ask or help your production relevant people, which is very often the core of the company, to use the same data you were using before to make production much more effective. And then the last step, and that could be a very big one, is also to include the CRM and the aftermarket data into this whole cycle. So, and if you just, and forgive me because I live in Munich, so we have a car manufacturer down there, a couple. If something happens in that CRM system, let's say the door doesn't close after 6,000 times of your new car. So that typically takes the automotive industry 7 to 10 months to change it into their production. And why is this? Because they don't have that implemented. They have a dealer in between, they don't know the issue, they need to go back to research, at least they have to go back to the design phase and fix it with a new design of whatever is the issue, and then roll this out into production in many plants across the globe, and this is really causing them a big headache. But if you get all the data into one data lake and perform analytics on top of it, and that could be any kind of smart, if you want, data lake, then you would have immediately the chance to be much more agile and flexible to implement those new solutions you found at the end for your customer. So that could save millions in the car industry and really rolling this back. And what was for me really my personal aha breakthrough in my mind is that we were talking to one of the automotive companies, car manufacturers, plant managers who's running a plant which is larger than my hometown. Yeah? So and the guy says, if I really could optimize my vertical stacks I have today in the factory with all my different tools and robots, from vertical integrated, let's say a Siemens, a Fanuc, what have you, into one horizontal analytics platform, then this for him running this factory which is larger than my hometown, for him this is the only way to get to his productivity targets which he has to achieve in a couple of years from now. And we started this, if you want, pretty small, just for that production process here. So there's a massive compute analytics needs. We do that together with SAP HANA in that case. But again, together with many partners evolved into this. And sometimes a partnership, I mean, it's like in private life here. Sometimes it runs good, sometimes better, sometimes you have some issues. But also in that case, you really have to bring this together. And I wanted to just highlight a couple names that you know that this is not just a marketing buzz here. So we have announced with ABB a close collaboration. We work with GE. We have with Schneider Electric very good connections. Just met last week many EVPs from their side. With Siemens we are engaged. There are many smaller ones with whom we also collaborate, because I think to really build this ecosystem and make it easy for you to integrate and to work with it, this for me is the key. And if you really think this through, then it's about a new real time. Yeah? And I'm not sure how good you can read it in the back, or on the left or on the right, but it's everything is going to be real time. And coming back to what we heard before, 5G is going to help us a lot in making this happen. And I'm totally excited that this is going to work. And when we go back to what we heard from the first speaker lady this morning, then there's a lot we can do in the right direction. And I'm really happy to discuss with you what we can do together with your partners, with your colleagues. There you are, to make that work. With this, thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day. And I'm sure my American friends are still sleeping, so nothing to announce for Hewlett Packard Enterprise, right? Thank you.